Costa Rica is a Central American country, about 1,500 miles and a 3-hour flight from Houston, Texas. This small country of only 5 million people is bordered by the Caribbean Sea to the east, Pacific Ocean to the west, Nicaragua to the north, and Panama to the south. There are 2 international airports, San Jose, the capital city in the center of the country, and Liberia in the northwest. We flew into Liberia and out of San Jose. We stayed in the secret Papagayo resort, only a 20-minute drive from the airport. The resort is built into the hillside overlooking the Bay of Papagayo. Our suite was in the middle of the property, and we had a pretty amazing water view. The views and landscaping never got old. The next morning, we drove about 90 minutes south along the coast to the town of Tamarindo, a coastal community popular with surfers and expats, and presumably surfer expats. The primary and many secondary roads we drove were well paved, but certainly not all of them. We very rarely encountered much traffic, and many people got around on motorcycles and bicycles. As mentioned before, not all the roads were paved, and it wasn't long before we drove onto dirt. Early November is the end of the rainy season in Costa Rica, and we'd already come across some areas where mud had washed out some of the pavement. Our scenic drive got more scenic than we had originally planned with this river ford ahead of us. The stuck pickup on the other side wasn't encouraging either. After a few minutes deliberation and some encouragement from the locals, we drove across and even managed to get a close-up shot of the brown-colored heron who was watching the show. Back on pavement once again, the rest of the drive to Tamarindo was hilly and windy, but otherwise uneventful. Tamarindo was pretty active, and it took us some time to find a parking spot. Restaurants, bars, and shops were open with customers, though I'm sure during normal times they would be a lot more crowded. Without all the people, this bird had plenty of space to shake its tail feathers. There were plenty of people picnicking and hanging out on the beach, including some going on a horseback tour. Living in Colorado, the 2 things we really miss are ocean views and seafood. We found a beachside restaurant for lunch, and the ceviche, red snapper, and views were exactly what we wanted. After lunch and some souvenir shopping, we headed back north, stopping at a local supermarket on the way out of town to get some supplies, including local coffee and chocolate. Not wanting to deal with fording the river again, we took a more circuitous route back to the resort. The roads were all paved, but we did hit some Sunday evening traffic. The next day, day 3, we drove south again, avoiding the river, to Playa Conchal, so named for the conch shells that can wash up there. The beach is pretty extensive, the northern part being much more heavily developed. But the southern end, where we parked, is beautifully rustic and more used by locals. We wanted to give snorkeling a try, so we walked to the rocky part of the beach, hoping to see some fish. While there were a few people on the beach, it really felt like we had the whole place to ourselves. It was the shortest snorkeling attempt ever, as I could only see my hands in front of my face. The water was way too murky. After a while longer chilling in the water and on the sand, we stopped at a nearby restaurant that was right off the beach. Their propane had unfortunately run out, so they couldn't serve any hot food. But they had a free shower to clean the sand off, and the beer and ceviche hit the spot. Cleaned and fed, we got back on the road to return to the resort. Instead of going back the way we came, Google mapped out a shorter route that skirted the nearby village. So I turned left and gave it a try. Not all roads on a map are equal, especially in Costa Rica, and this particular shortcut route seemed to be getting worse and worse, but still manageable, until we got to this sizable washed out rut. The smart move would have been to turn around and go the longer route back through the village, but of course I tried to make it and got properly and thoroughly stuck. Fortunately, we had good wireless signal, and a call to the rental company had us pulled out and back on the road 90 minutes later. While we were waiting, some local kids came up and sweetly, but futilely, offered to help push us out. Then they went and got their parents, who also offered to help. I was able to communicate that we had help on the way, but the gesture was really appreciated. The Costa Rican people, ticos as they call themselves, have an expression, pura vida, literally that translates to pure life, but it means so much more to their way of living and view of the world. In our experience, it means they embrace a pure, simple, relaxed way of living, and they want everyone who visits their country to feel the same. Everyone we met the entire trip was kind, gracious, and very helpful, sometimes going way out of their way to be so. After all this, our day ended on a high note. At dinner, the resort brought out a birthday cake for Avic, to cap off a birthday she will not soon forget. Since our arrival in Costa Rica on Halloween evening, Tropical Storm Eta had been working its way across the western Caribbean, and by the next morning of November 3, had made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane in Nicaragua. While Costa Rica was spared the worst of the storm, it spawned an intense storm cell right on top of us. The storm caused flash floods and mudslides in the area and knocked out main power, putting the resort on generator power for most of the day. We were very fortunate. There are worse places to ride out a storm than in an all-inclusive resort. By the next morning, the rain had mostly calmed down, so we took advantage and drove to the nearby beach town of Coco. Coco is much smaller than Tamarindo, and it has a more homey vibe. Several of the resort staff lived there and recommended the Greek restaurant, so we checked it out. The octopus and red snapper were spectacular. After lunch and some more souvenir shopping, we walked down to check out the beach. We only got a quick look as the rain started picking up again, so we walked back to the car and returned to the resort. The next morning, we took another short day trip to the Diamante Eco Park. Costa Rica is home to numerous exotic and rare species of animals, most of which were supposed to be in the park, so we were excited to see what they had to offer. All the animals in the park were either rescued by the Costa Rican government or loaned by academic institutions. The park is tucked in between the coast and the jungle-covered hills. The low clouds and rain give it an authentic rainforest feel. Like everywhere in Costa Rica, the park had been closed since April for COVID and had just reopened less than a month before. There were still very few visitors, and we got a private tour, one that normally would be for 10 people. Our guide was very knowledgeable. Costa Rica has an extensive nationalized training program that includes courses on local biology and botany, with a final certification for the tourism board. The first exhibit had a wide collection of local frogs, some of which had incredibly vibrant colors. A large cage next door contained several species of parrots, colorful but not very chatty that day. Moving on, we went to the outdoor snake tanks next. Avic is not a fan of snakes, so she was simultaneously fascinated with and repulsed by them. It was a bit amusing to witness. More reptiles followed in the next exhibits, including iguanas and turtles. But then we came to the big boys, the American crocodiles. Even from a safe distance, they seemed dangerous. Moving from reptiles to mammals, the monkeys were next. This marmoset took one look and decided he had better things to do. But the spider monkeys were a little more animated and engaged. The next animals, near the top of our list to see, were the two-tailed sloths, featuring Lucy, the park mascot, who was enjoying a leisurely meal of fruit. Her two compatriots were taking a nap sheltered from the rain. From here we moved indoors to an exhibit of butterflies, beetles, and other assorted bugs. The variety was astounding, and I'm really glad they weren't alive and creeping and crawling all over the place. We were super excited to see the next animals, who were top of our list to see on this trip. The toucan's house let the rain in, but we hardly noticed, as watching them was simply breathtaking. The final animal exhibit area belonged to the big cats, the most amazing of which were the two jaguars. They were best mates, born and raised in captivity, and now taking a nap together. They looked so beautiful and peaceful, belying their immense predatory power. Diamante also has a cultural tour of a traditional Spanish colonial-era farm and farmhouse. Again, we effectively had a private tour. We followed our guide down this muddy path through the jungle, past rows of coffee plants towards the wooden farmhouse. Among the other plants on the farm were banana and cacao trees. The farmhouse's construction was sturdy, elegantly simple, and practical. The wraparound porch held many chairs so farmers could shelter and relax after working the fields without dirtying up the main area of the house. The house itself was a large, multi-purpose single room. They had an open floor plan concept before it was cool in suburbia. Coffee has been an important part of Costa Rica's economy since the Spanish first planted it there in the late 1700s. The red beans are ripe and ready to pick. The shells peel off easily to reveal the raw, light-colored bean. The sack on the right contained dried, unroasted beans, and the left was the final roasted product. Our guide scooped up some roasted beans with a dried gourd, and we ground them 19th century style. Traditionally, ox-pulled carts were the primary means of transport, and decorated ox carts are a national symbol of Costa Rica. This one behind the farmhouse was beautifully elaborate in its designs. Next to the ox cart was a manual sugarcane press where we got our next demonstration. Unlike the coffee grinder, this press required 2 operators to feed the sugarcane through the machine. The strainer was there to catch any small pieces while the juice flowed into the cup. The first pass broke up the stalk, then 2 more passes extracted the milky juice. We got a sample to taste, which was refreshing and only lightly sweet, not concentrated like sugar granules are. After our tours at Diamante, it was time for lunch. We stopped at a nearby recommended soda, which is the local term for a mom-and-pop restaurant. We were pleasantly surprised to see support for Colorado teams, and the food was excellent. That concludes part 1 of our Costa Rica trip. Part 2 will be coming up. We hope you liked this video, and if you did and want to see more from us, please hit like and subscribe on our channel.